There was once upon a time a king who had 12 daughters. Each one was more beautiful than the other. They all slept together in one chamber, in which their beds stood side by side. Every night, when they were in them, the king locked the door and bolted it. But in the morning, when he unlocked the door, he saw that their shoes were worn out with dancing, and no one could find out how that had come to pass. Then the king caused it to be proclaimed that whosoever could discover where they danced at night should choose one of them for his wife and be king after his death. But whosoever came forward and had not discovered it within 3 days should have forfeited his life. It was not long before a king's son presented himself and offered to undertake the enterprise. He was well received, and in the evening was led into a room adjoining the princess's sleeping chamber. His bed was placed there, and he was to observe where they went and danced. And in order that they might do nothing secretly, or go away to some other place, the door of the room was left open. But the eyelids of the prince grew heavy as lead, and he soon fell asleep. When he awoke in the morning, all 12 had been to the dance, where their shoes were standing there with holes in the soles. On the second and third nights it fell out just the same, and so his head was struck off without mercy. Many others came after this and undertook the enterprise, but all forfeited their lives. Now, it came to pass that a poor soldier who had a wound and could no longer serve found himself on the road to the town where the king lived. There he met an old woman who asked him where he was going. "I hardly know myself," answered he, and added in jest, "Why, I had half a mind to discover where the princesses danced their shoes into holes, and thus become king." "That is not so difficult," said the old woman. "You simply must not drink the wine which will be brought to you at night, and you must be pretending to be sound asleep." With that, she gave him a little cloak and said, "If you put on that, you will be invisible, and then you can steal after the 12. When the soldier had received this good counsel, he took heart and was determined to try the thing in earnest. So he went to the king and announced himself as a suitor. He was as well received as the others, and royal garments were put upon him. That evening he was conducted at bedtime into the outer chamber, and as he was about to go to bed, the eldest came and brought him a cup of wine. But he had tied a sponge under his chin and let the wine run down into it without drinking a drop. Then he lay down, and when he had lain a while, he began to snore as if in deepest sleep. The 12 princesses heard that and laughed, and the eldest said, "He too might as well have saved his life." With that they got up, opened their wardrobes, presses, and cupboards, and brought out beautiful dresses, baubles, and jewelry. They dressed themselves before the mirrors, sprang about, and rejoiced at the prospect of the dance. Only the youngest said, "I know not how it is. You are very happy, but I feel very strange. Some misfortune is certainly about to befall us." "You are a goose," said the eldest, "who is always frightened. Have you forgotten how many kings' sons have already come here in vain? In any case, I had hardly any need to give the soldier the sleeping draught. He was so weary that the clown would not have awakened." When they were all ready, they looked carefully at the soldier, but he kept his eyes shut tight and did not move or stir, so they felt themselves quite secure. The eldest then went to her bed and tapped it thrice. It immediately sank into the earth, and one after the other, from the eldest to the youngest, they descended through the opening. The soldier tarried no longer, but hastily put on his little cloak and went down last with the youngest. Halfway down the steps, he trod, just a little, on the dress of the youngest. She was terrified at that and cried out, "What is that? Who is pulling my dress?" "Don't be so silly," said the eldest. You have caught it on a nail." Then they went all the way down, and when they were at the bottom, they were standing in a glorious avenue of trees, all the leaves of which were of silver, and shone and glistened. The soldier thought, "I must carry a token away with me as proof," and broke off a twig from one of them, on which the tree cracked with a loud report. The youngest cried out again, "Something is wrong. Did you hear the crack?" But the eldest said, "It is a gun fired for joy, because we have got rid of that soldier so quickly." After that, they came into another avenue, but this time all the leaves were of gold, and lastly into a third, where they were of bright diamonds. The soldier broke off a twig from each, making a crack each time that the youngest started back in terror. But the eldest still maintained that they were guns, firing salutes. They went on, and came to a great lake whereon sat 12 little boats, and in every boat sat a handsome prince, all of whom were waiting for the 12, and each took one of them with him. But the soldier seated himself by the youngest. Then her prince said, "I cannot tell why the boat is so much heavier today. I seem to have not the strength to get it across." "What should cause that?" said the youngest. "Is it the warm weather? For some reason, I feel very warm." On the opposite side of the lake stood a splendid illuminated castle, from whence resounded the joyous music of trumpets and kettle drums. They rode there, entered, and each prince danced with the girl he loved. The soldier danced with all of them unseen, and when one of them had a cup of wine by her hand, he drank it up, so that the cup was empty when she carried it to her mouth. The youngest was alarmed at this, but the eldest always made her be silent. There they danced till 3 o'clock in the morning, when all the shoes were danced into holes, and they were forced to leave off. The princes rowed them back again over the lake, and this time the soldier seated himself by the eldest. On the shore they took leave of their princes and promised to return the following night. When they reached the stairs, the soldier ran on in front and lay down in his bed, so that by the time the 12 had come up slowly and wearily, he was already snoring so loudly that they could all hear him. And they said, "So far as he is concerned, we are safe." They took off their beautiful dresses, laid them away, put the worn-out shoes under their beds, and lay down to sleep. The next morning the soldier was resolved not to speak, but to watch the wonderful goings on, and again went with them. Then everything was done just as it had been done before, and each time they danced until their shoes were worn to pieces. But the third time he took a golden cup away with him as a token. When the hour had arrived for him to give his answer, he took the 3 twigs and the cup and went to the king. But the 12 stood behind the door and listened for what he was going to say. When the king put the question, "Where have my 12 daughters danced their shoes to pieces in the night?" he answered, "In an underground castle with 12 princes," and related how it had come to pass, and brought out the tokens. The king then summoned his daughters, and asked them if the soldier had told the truth. And when they saw that they were discovered, and that falsehood would be of no avail, they were obliged to confess all. Thereupon the king asked of the soldier which of them he would have to wife. The soldier answered, "I am no longer young, so give me the eldest." Then the wedding was celebrated on the self-same day, and the kingdom was promised him after the king's death. But the princes, well, they were bewitched for as many days as they had danced nights with the 12.